Hello and welcome back to the Not the Old Firm YouTube channel. My name is Ben Banks, here to look ahead to the weekend's fixtures, a full card of games, take a mini sort of break next week for some of the teams anyway. Only two games on the 13th of March, Ross County Hibs and Livingston v Hamilton. So this is the penultimate full fixture card before the split, before the international break towards the end of this month. And obviously the return of the Scottish Cup and stuff as well with the lower league returns. We should have more in-depth bits on those sort of news, hopefully next week, if not the following week. So, to get straight into it then, Aberdeen v Hamilton, Mull v Livingston, Rangers versus St Mirren, Ross County v Kilmarnock, St Johnstone v Hibernian, and Dundee United v Celtic is the 12 o'clock kick-off on the telly on Sunday. Aberdeen Hamilton will start with. Hamilton, probably a bigger game for Hamilton than it is Aberdeen. When you're looking at the table just now, Aberdeen, of course, a win would push them closer to Hibs. So I suppose it is fairly big if Aberdeen want any ambition of getting that sort of third spot in the Scottish Premiership. One of their last chances to play against a bottom six side before the split. And against Hamilton at home, it'll be a game they'll be looking to pick up 3 points in. But for Hamilton, they are fighting for the Premiership survival. Joint bottom of the table. They lost really 2 points on Wednesday. They were leading 1-0 against League Cup winner St Johnstone before a brilliant Guy Melamed strike a couple of minutes from the end snatched away a couple of points. Just changes the picture so quickly. In the 86th minute, Hamilton were in 10th and were sitting above Kilmarnock at least, and were also above Ross County by a point as well. So Melamed scores and they're stuck to the bottom, albeit on goal difference. So it just shows you how quickly things can change at the bottom. But they'll need a result, and they'll need to do it without Bruce Anderson. He has been inspirational for them since arriving from Aberdeen on loan. Of course, because it's his parent club, he is ineligible to play. So both teams really could be doing with Bruce Anderson in this one. Aberdeen shy on goals at present, haven't scored all that many lately. So I suppose both teams could do with Bruce Anderson, but he'll be in the stand at Pittodrie. On Saturday, Mull versus Livingston, the one I'm at. We heard from Graham Alexander and Livingston manager Davy Martindale ahead of this one. Graham Alexander, he's got a bit of a bloated squad. An estimate of 40 players at Fir Park, which is quite staggering. But he's looking forward to actually welcoming some of them back, starting with Declan Gallagher, who returned last weekend against Hibs, whereas Davy Martindale wants his side to build on the 1-0 performance against Rangers. Well, it was a defeat. It was an encouraging display from the Lions after their League Cup final defeat last weekend.
No, we're certainly not out of the danger zone. I've not once mentioned the top six to anybody. I've not talked about the other end to anybody. I've just been talking about the next game to my players and making sure that we focus on that, because as soon as we took our focus off the next game, we come unstuck a couple of weeks ago. So for me, look, it's obviously a scenario where our first objective coming in was making sure we're a Premiership team, so we weren't thinking about anything more than that, and it's still the case. So I said all along, 2 games, 3 games isn't going to be enough to decide our season. It's going to be from now right to the end, and I don't think that's changed, to be honest, because I didn't feel that we were going to come in and win every single game, but I was also hoping that we wouldn't come in and lose every game, and that's been the case.
Disappointed, to be honest, disappointed for the boys, but as I said to BBC and Sky, probably got away with one in the first half where Stonewall penalty it looks like, so got away with one, to be honest, but to lose the game so late on in the game, it's disappointing. You're always going to be disappointed, but I thought the performance was there tonight for the boys. I thought the boys were fantastic up until they just score the first goal. Yeah, he held out. You're not going to dominate the ball when you come up against the Glasgow clubs, especially Rangers this year. I think they've been fantastic, so you're not going to dominate the ball, so you've got to go in that game plan. And the game plan worked 95% of the game plan worked. We forced them into a lot of long straight balls. They keep Max played high because we knew we had to come for a lot of the balls. So the game plan worked to a certain degree. We made a few chances ourselves. I think Big John should have got on the end of one second half with a corner. I think he just needs to make the contact and it probably goes in. Josh was a shot late on in the game. I can't remember, but the Rangers player slid in and blocked it. So we made a couple of chances ourselves. Max never really had a lot to do. It was fairly bog standard what he did have to do, other than obviously he's got the save. We should probably do a wee bit better at the blocking. We blocked the cross for it to come in. I can't remember who had the shot that Max saves and Morelos taps it in at the back post, but probably got to do a wee bit better and keep him on the line. But proud of the boys tonight. I thought the performance was fantastic. And
Rangers versus St Mirren in a hugely, potentially historic match. Of course, talking about St Mirren, the chance for the Buddies to wrap up their top six hopes. Yes, I'm not dull to the fact that the Rangers could win the Premiership title as well, should the result on Sunday go for them and they win this one. But nevertheless, very important for St Mirren as well. Of course, the attention will focus on Rangers, this being the game where they potentially win the league for the first time in pretty much, I think, 10 years. And yeah, the focus will be on that, but for St Mirren, it's an equally important game. Perhaps not one that's going to define whether they finish in the top six or not. They look fairly decent for it. The result midweek, St Johnstone were perhaps the team that looked most likely to catch them after Dundee United's draw with Kilmarnock last week. But St Johnstone drawing with Hamilton midweek means St Mirren now have a 4-point gap on Dundee United, with Dundee United to play Celtic and Aberdeen before the split, and St Johnstone are 5 points behind as well. So both of them with they need to win every game to catch St Mirren. So St Mirren could still lose against Rangers and still be well in pole position. They could still wrap it up if results go for them over the weekend. But a great achievement for St Mirren. They've never achieved a top six finish. But ahead of this one, Jim Goodwin's still looking for changes in Scottish football. He's talked about VAR after lots of penalty incidents over the last week, but another thing he is calling for is the introduction of summer football in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic.
I think as well, and I had a really good conversation with a friend of mine last week, and probably going off tangent here a little bit, but I think we need to look at the introduction of the summer football again as well. And I know we've had that debate previously, numerous occasions, but I think for me it just makes sense. You know, let's stop playing football in the winter months when there's a really much higher risk of these kind of flu things happening, and let's try and play the game in the better weather when hopefully that will generate more crowds. A lot of countries out there who are doing summer football have had better attendances, and I just think it makes sense. I really do. I know we in the UK here like the idea of playing football over Christmas and into the New Year period, but that's when sickness bugs are at their highest. So maybe that's the conversation we should be having in this season, or maybe the season after.
Ross County v Kilmarnock in the Highlands in a huge match. The importance of this one for me, game of the weekend. I know the Rangers game potentially one of more significance in terms of what happens at the top end of the Premiership, where things are all settled. That's not a case of whether it's going to happen. It's just a case of when. This is a case of whether it could happen. There's still, for me, if you look at the bottom of the table, 4 teams involved, primarily Hamilton bottom with Kilmarnock joint in points in 25, Ross County in 10th on 26, and then Mull just slowly above that on 32. A result probably sees Mull move out of that relegation picture. Another positive result, a couple of draws maybe here and there. But for Ross County, Kilmarnock and Hamilton, they really are in the thick of it, and especially Ross County and Kilmarnock this weekend is a huge match. Ross County win, then providing Accies lose to the Dons, then that could potentially cut off a 4-point gap, and that starts at this stage of the season, starts to look a bit ominous, albeit still plenty of football to play, still 5 or 6 matches after this weekend. But yeah, it does get done, especially for Kilmarnock. They've not got the benefit of what Hamilton have. Hamilton have a difficult game in hand against Livingston, but it's an extra chance for 3 points all the same, a luxury Kilmarnock do not have. So yeah, for Kilmarnock, they have to win this. They just have to win it. They've not won since January 9th. They scored their first goal, I think, since that game, or at least one of the few since that game. Last weekend against Dundee United in a 1-1 draw. They have looked better. They have looked more organised under Tommy Wright, but results haven't come. and that's the key thing. John Hughes needs consistency from his team. They've shown against Celtic in the 1-0 victory. They can get performances. They have beaten Aberdeen. They've beaten Hibs. But then again, last weekend, albeit to a soft penalty, they lost to St Mirren in a game. Even though St Mirren are pushing for the top 6, they could have been striving for a point at least out of. But again, they did also lose to a very dubious penalty. Otherwise, that game would have finished 0-0. So, yeah, perhaps hard done by John Hughes in that one. But speaking ahead of this one, he just knows the importance of 3 points in this if Ross County are to have ambition of staying in the Premiership.
Yeah, and the thing about it, since what I've been saying is, since I've come in here, is other teams, they all know they've been in a game. You know, I felt we created enough chances in the second half to take something out of the match, if no win it. A little bit disappointed I had to make the changes, you know, to get us going and on a foot. That the team that played against Celtic, where we're at it, with everything that we talk about, momentum and confidence, and we seem to St Mirren were a better team in the first half, but second half much improved. All credit to the boys. And the thing about football is you cannot feel sorry for yourself. As you say, you need to find that tool, that common, that theme, that, you know, it makes you, it drives you forward, and don't let anything stand in your way. And I think I've got that in the boys. And that's why when the decisions go against them, you feel there's a real injustice. And you feel for them because they're an honest bunch of boys. So we have to just stick together, and we have to make sure that we're up for a game on Saturday. And what will be, I think it'll be a very close game, and it's always fine margins. And I'm just delighted that we've given ourselves a chance to be in these kind of games, still fighting for our survival in the SPL. That's all credit to the boys.
And finally, St Johnstone versus Hibs. Hibs looking to strengthen their grip on third place. St Johnstone as well. Yeah, top 6, they need to win the last couple of games, but after winning the League Cup last weekend, I don't think fans will be too disappointed. Whatever happens this season, providing they don't completely slip down to the bottom ends of the league, which will not happen. I'm sure they'll be satisfied with their best of silverware they won last weekend. Now, a great place to 1-1 draw against Hamilton, perhaps a bit telling on the exertions mentally and physically of the 72 hours previous. But it should be an interesting game nonetheless. They have been very tight, these encounters this season, both at Easter Road and McDermott Park. And speaking ahead of the game, St Johnstone midfielder Craig Bryson, inundated with messages from Derby County fans, but he even thought, you know, maybe at the age he's at in his early 30s, perhaps an occasion like last weekend had passed him by.
Just a bit. The Derby fans have always been supportive of me since day one, since I joined Derby, and ever since I left, to be honest, they've always been great. I've got a good following on Twitter from them. They're always happy when I get a bit of success and do well. So it's calmed down a wee bit now, but yeah, they're always happy for us. I think the longer it goes without you winning a trophy and being involved in the bigger games, and you sense that you're coming towards the end of your career, you do start to think that I wonder if we'll ever get a chance again. But when we started in the cup there, we always had the aim of getting to Hampden, and you know, once you get through the group stages, you're only a couple of games away, and that's what we kept on saying in the changing room, like, get through this, try and get through the last 16, then you never know what can happen, and luckily for us, we got there and we managed to finish the job.
And on the Sunday, Dundee United versus Celtic, 12 o'clock kick-off. Dundee United in a similar boat to St Johnstone. They need to win all their games to even have a chance of reaching the top 6, but even at that, it might be in vain. It might already be too late for them to reach the top 6. It's not a bad season, I don't think, for Mickey Mellon's side. They've only came up this year, period of transitioning into the league after a few years away, and they've never really looked in any relegation danger. So, whilst not perhaps the most exciting season Dundee United have ever had, it's decent. It's decent enough. They've got a decent bed of players there. They'll all have benefited from an extra year of Premiership experience, and then perhaps next season will be the season when they look to kick on into the top half. It looks as if Hearts will come up from the Scottish Championship. So yeah, the next season could see the return of your sort of air quote big six in the Premiership. Going off the title this season, it will be Rangers, Celtic, Hibs, Aberdeen, Dundee United, Hearts. That'll be what many will predict, just sheerly on club size, what the top six may look like next season. But obviously, Mickey Mellon saying need to improve for that to happen. They have shown bits of naivety and things like that. The 1-1 draw last weekend, Kilmarnock. Yeah, they look decent enough in the first half, but in the second half they just dropped off a bit. Perhaps Kilmarnock looking a bit more desperate for the points, and given their league position, you can perhaps see why. But Dundee United don't win this, and they won't be expected to against Celtic, who are looking to prevent their rivals from winning the league for as long as possible. Yeah, gets to that awkward stage, and I suppose St Johnstone fall into that bracket too of they're not in relegation trouble in the bottom six, but I mean, playing for 7th, well, of course, the managers will say we're going to play for 7th, we want to finish as high as we can. Realistically, the objectives for the season are done, and yeah, 7th isn't exactly, don't think it's one to get off your seat about, but of course, if that is what it comes to, then I'm sure they'll aim for that no bother, and perhaps it'll be a chance Dundee United have given debuts to lots of young players this season. Perhaps it would give them a bit more of a chance to have a run in the side, and perhaps players who haven't played as often this season playing a bit more often. But it gets a bit tricky because you have got bottom six sides who are playing for something at the moment, so they then may be fair to them and play a full team. Who knows? I'll cross that bridge in my analysis when I come to it in a few weeks. We'll also have the Scottish Cup as well, so I suppose you'll be playing for places in that competition. And that's my preview done of this weekend. Hope you have enjoyed. Do remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, take care.